Okay, find your telling time notes. We're going to finish out today the rest of our telling time lesson. The front side of our notes, we're talking about telling the actual time. So when I ask you the question, ¿Qué hora es? I'm asking you, what time is it actually? Like right now, look at your watch and tell me, what time is it? And those phrases we learned were son las and es la for the hour, and then of course the y and menos, and then how to do our minutes. We learned a little bit extra, like how to say afternoon, noon, and how to say midnight, AM, and PM. Using this same concept that we are using right here in the building of the minutes, we're going to now learn how to answer the question, ¿A qué hora es? That's the question you ask when you're telling at what time something is. Okay, so the question on the back side, what time is it, is ¿Qué hora es? We're asking for actual time. Now we're going to be asking at what time something is. The question becomes ¿A qué hora es? A means at. And now we're asking for a time on a schedule, right? And remember, in Spanish, a schedule is an horario. It looks like hour, right? Hora, horario, an hour. So let's look at the difference. Okay, so here we have the class is at 3. We're not saying it is 3 o'clock. We're telling at what time something is. That phrase becomes La clase es a las 3. So let's compare these phrases to what we learned last time, okay? So here's our actual time. Here's our scheduled time. So if I asked you, ¿Qué hora es? I would be asking you, what time is it actually? And you're going to want to answer, it's 2 o'clock. So you would say, son las 2. But if I was asking you about a schedule and I asked you, ¿A qué hora es la clase? Now I'm asking, at what time is the class? Not, what time is it? So we can't answer, at what time is the class with, it is 2. We got to say the class is at 2, which would become, la clase es a las 2. So notice that a right there. The class is at 2. Now you may be thinking, but 2 o'clock, Mrs. Inky, you told us that we're supposed to say son las. Well, that's right, when you're telling actual time. When you're telling what time something is at, it's always going to be the singular. The class is, the movie is, okay, the dance is. It's always going to be S when you're telling at what time. Notice that there. S is always right before the A. Now you can always skip your subject, right? If I asked you, ¿A qué hora es la clase? At what time is the class? You could just say, it is, understood it, es a las 2. You don't have to give me the whole subject. Remember, if you skip your subject, it's understood it in Spanish. So here's another question. ¿Qué hora es? We're asking for the actual time again, so we would say it's 3:30. Son las 3:30. But once again, if I'm asking about a schedule, ¿A qué hora? I'm changing the verb. ¿A qué hora termina la clase? Now what am I asking? At what time does the class end? Well, we're going to say the class ends. La clase, you could have skipped it. You could have just started with it ends. And don't forget, it is at las 3:30, not son las 3:30. That would be, it is 3 o'clock, right? Not it end. We don't want to say it ends, it is. We want to say it ends at. So we're going to have a. So let's come back up here and remember, make sure you remember that the verb empieza means begins. The verb termina means ends. And we know that the verb tengo means I have, right? But we can talk about someone else. We could say Susie tiene la clase a la 1. That would be Susie has the class at 1. So we're going to look at some schedules and we're going to practice this. So keep your notes in front of you. Let me change my screen. Let me ask you, at what time is English? Okay, so my question, at what time is English, would become ¿A qué hora? Now, what verb do I need for is? This was at what hour do you have? Now I want what hour is. ¿A qué hora es la clase de inglés? Right? So what time is the English class? Okay, so what time is English class? 9:40. So we want to say the English class is at 9:40. So we will say, you can say the class, la clase de inglés, or you can just call it the class, or we could have skipped it and just said it is at 9:40. That would be es, not son las, right? Es a las. What 9:40 is 10 till 10. So how are we going to do that? We'll say 10 minus 10 menos 10. Okay, I'm going to ask you more of these. ¿A qué hora es la clase de inglés? Now I'm going to change it. Let's say, ¿a qué hora es la clase de español? ¿A qué hora es la clase de español? We're going to say the class is at 20 till noon or 20 till 12. Ready? La clase de español es a las 12 menos 20. 12 minus 20. ¿A qué hora es la clase de historia? ¿A qué hora es la clase de historia? La clase es a la 1:10. A la 1:10. Try one more. ¿A qué hora es la clase de música? La clase es a las 2.